Tonight on the Goblin's Corner.
Adventuring schools.
That's how we roll. 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 That's how we roll.
Welcome to the Goblin's Corner. My name is Eric.
And I'm Matt.
And tonight,
We're doing adventuring schools.
that's right. Adventuring schools is a subject we've been thinking about doing for a couple months now.
Yeah.
And we've done a couple organizational groups, for example, criminal organizations.
Yeah, mages guilds.
That's right. And a few others like druid circles and so forth. But this one's going to be a little bit different tonight because we're not just going to give you some building blocks on how to create your school. We're also going to give you some story options built into the
Foundation.
the foundation of what we're putting together. So it's going to be very similar if you like those videos, but it's going to be a little bit different as well.
Indeed. We are starting the evening with something different tonight.
In fact, we are. What are we doing that's different tonight, Matt?
We have a thank you.
Who is that thank you for, I wonder?
That thank you is for Dave, because Dave has made us some lovely dice that were custom for our goblin corneriness. And, it is greatly appreciated.
He also made a couple others, as you can see. So big props to him. He sent us a whole bunch of stuff. We have actually, 3 bags of dice?
We do. I actually have the third one on hand as well.
We at the Goblin's Corner enjoy fine dice. So if you would like to send us more dice, please do. We can give you our address and so forth. You don't have to send us stuff, but if you want to, we're not going to say no.
Exactly.
So thank you very much, Dave. Really appreciate it. We figured we'd tell everybody in the world that we appreciate that.
Yeah, and that we appreciate you.
That's right. We like you too. So there you go. Let's get to the question of the week.
All right. So we're doing adventuring schools,
I'm shocked.
and therefore we have a question of the week
Okay.
that revolves around that. If you or one of your characters
Mm-hmm.
were to found an adventuring school, what would the mascot be and why?
I've got this. So my wizard, and you know which one I'm talking about, would start an adventuring school
Mm-hmm.
someplace beneath a farmland
Sure.
because he's a gnome, rolling hills and such. You know which one I'm talking about, my chaos wizard.
Yeah.
And it's the mascot would be the Fighting Flumps. Go FF.
Sure. For a second, I thought you were referring to Zero, your necromancer.
Oh, my necromancer Zero? No,
And
that would
he's
be.
setting up a school under some farmland.
No, my necromancer character, his mascot would be an undead creature that is pretending to be human but badly. But that's a different story. We'll talk about
Or the
necromancer.
flying skulls.
The flying skulls would be very useful as well. Yeah, that'd be fun. Screaming banshees. But yeah, so for my chaos mage, it would definitely be the Fighting Flumps. Blue and pink all the way. Go FF.
All right.
What is your mascot for your adventurer? Who's your adventurer going to be first?
Well, Smudge actually started an adventuring school in the Wayback Machine in Sharn. And I think it was a dead Warforged was the mascot. But
Go
that-
broken machinery.
Yeah, I mean that was intentionally insulting. I think I would probably do, if I were to start one, I'd do something relatively innocuous like a Tressum or an Almirage.
I could see you having a mascot as a Tressum. That's very fitting of you.
The problem is you have to actually like convince a Tressum because they're smart. Like you can't just charm one or train one or anything like you have to actually.
Yeah, they're even more of an asshole than regular cats.
Right.
And they can fly,
Yes.
which means they'll poop on your head. And you know if a flying cat could, it would.
They would just hang out in trees above people. Just bloop.
Yeah. They'd hack up a fur ball just right on your skull.
Sure.
So if Tressum is your answer,
I think so.
I like that. Tressum would be good. Tressum would be a nice one in a fantasy setting anyway, because it's kind of like, I've got a griffin, I've got a dragon, I have a Tressum. Don't go near that school. It's not to be trusted.
It is filled with assholes,
That's
clearly.
right. Are you an asshole or are you not to be trusted? Write to us, info@goblinscorner.com, or you can reach me, Eric at goblinscorner.com, or
Me, Matt at goblinscorner.com.
and of course, you can find us on all the things.
So many things.
Lots of stuff like TikTok and Twitter and I don't know, whatever the hell.
YouTube.
Matt joins everything all the time. He talks on everybody. Sometimes I talk. Speaking of talking, we've got a whole bunch of new folks that are tuning into the series, so welcome.
Yeah, we
And,
appreciate you being here.
Yeah, if you want to write to us aside from questions and comments, feel free. Send us some show ideas.
Yeah.
Or just say hi.
Something you want us to review? I'm a very social creature.
Matt's very friendly, and I am sometimes. All right, so let's talk a little bit about adventuring schools, Matt. So
Sounds good.
What are we talking about when we're saying adventuring schools? Like, what is the focus for this evening?
First off, literally a school that trains adventurers.
Not just wizards, not just rogues, but adventures across the board.
Exactly.
And if you guys have ever played Acquisitions Incorporated, what a wonderful lead-in to having an adventuring school as well. Think about it.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's a good idea.
That'd make a perfect AC Inc. campaign to start off with, like start at an adventuring school and then branch out, get a franchise.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. Training academies for governments and organizations could also be another purpose for adventuring schools.
Sure.
And there's lots of lore in the various games that we've played, D&D or otherwise.
Forgotten Realms has several places that train different types of adventurers.
Like the Harpers, for example.
the Zentrum.
Yeah.
On the opposite side of that coin.
That's true. And theoretically, the Red Wizards, although it's much more of a cutthroat academy for that. But even the Dark Lanterns would be a... You like that pun?
Oh, no. My brain went to a pirate adventuring academy, literally called the Cutthroat Academy.
The Cutthroat Academy. Yeah.
Yarr.
I love that. That's great. Now that's definitely going in the next
canon.
game. That's canon in the next game. There you go. So you can have all sorts of organizations be an adventuring school, not just like the typical school setting.
Sure.
What else do we got? What is another good reason for having an adventuring school?
Well, the great thing about an adventuring school is it is a premise that you can skin a dozen different ways to start a campaign.
Yeah.
If maybe your adventuring guild that is the crux of your campaign, maybe it has an adventuring school to train up new adventurers. Right? You can't be a guild if you don't have people to fill the positions.
Yeah, where do they come from? It's not like they just come out of the ether.
Yeah.
Although in most games they come out of the ether.
I planted a ranger tree in my backyard. Some of them about to ripen.
Yeah. Speaking of coming out of the ether, wait till next episode. Now, this is also not to be confused with adventuring guilds.
Right.
Because we've already covered that.
Sure.
And in fact, we covered that in episode 66, folks. Go check it out. But what I would see an adventuring school be very useful for is, first off, there's magic in most fantasy settings.
Sure.
If you're playing an adventurer, unless you're in like a sci-fi thing, but then substitute it for, powerful science.
Yeah.
Yeah, all kinds of tech, right? So most fantasy schools are magic-centric, and that's cool.
Your Strixhavens and your
Hogwarts or whatever the hell it is. And all that stuff is great. But what about the rogue, man? He gets no love.
Exactly.
Druid gets no love. Paladin just going to drown in the pool. Of course he is. But we should teach him to swim, right? Yeah. Warrior training schools, they got warrior lodges, but maybe you should combine all of them.
Yeah, maybe those people should learn to work together before their lives depend on it.
That's right.
What a concept.
Yeah, maybe they would actually live in a dungeon then. So an adventuring school makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
What are some other reasons we might want to have an adventuring school in our campaign?
It provides some great story options.
Yeah.
I mean, fantastic. They're different media have touched on different portions of it, but I feel like an actual adventuring academy, other than Dimension 20, they touched on it. But other than that, I don't feel like it's really been done. And it certainly hasn't been done in print anywhere.
And it probably hasn't been done right.
Yeah.
So It's an opportunity for everybody. Another opportunity is the chance to do cooperative world building together.
Yeah.
So you could just start as a storyteller with an idea or a location, and we'll get to the qualities in a second, and have your players fill in the gaps. Now you've built this. Maybe they're retired adventurers. What a great story that would be. And they're building an adventure academy.
Exactly.
For
That would be
cash
a
money.
great way to do it. Another great way to do it would be, sit down. Your classes are, you guys are going to start at an adventuring academy. Tell me who your favorite teacher is and who the teacher you hate most is. Who are they? You tell me. I'm letting you help populate this school.
With those characters.
That's
cool.
And, it could be simply that your wizard doesn't care about religion. The freaking religions teacher just drives me crazy. Paylor this.
Preaching me this Paylor crap. Come on, I just
want to blow stuff
want to
up.
blow stuff up, yeah. Why can't I just fireball everything?
Right? So that provides a lot of...
The thief stealing lunch money. You know it would be.
Sure.
Probably stealing lunch.
Right. But yeah, that provides a lot of immediate buy-in.
So lots of different opportunities. In addition to that, you could also turn tropes on their heads and cliches.
Absolutely.
So what do we mean by that, Matt? Like, give me an example.
Okay, so what if the super nerd, right, isn't a wizard?
Oh, it's a fighter?
Or it's a rogue who has been pretending the whole time. Because no one suspects him, because everybody thinks he's the shy little geeky dude in the corner.
No one knows he's a rogue.
Right.
Yeah, I like that. They think he's maybe a wizard.
Yeah, he takes some wizard like he's taking
Or a
an
scholar.
arcana class.
Maybe he's a scholar,
Sure.
right? Just a scholar, right? I'm just learning to be a sage at this adventuring academy. You guys need somebody to look stuff up. Doesn't have to be the traditional classes.
Exactly.
About that. Yeah, I love that. So in addition to providing some tropes, cliches, and some opportunities, what else can we provide with an adventuring school?
You and I are not high school age.
Not
Clearly.
anymore. Yeah, clearly not. No.
It is a chance to indulge a bit in the whole if I knew then what I know now kind of opportunity. You and I we weren't into high school drama when we were in high school. I was into theater, not drama. The whole just being able to say whatever it is that comes to your mind because you're a freaking barbarian. Because who's going to say something to you? What are they going to do?
Yeah.
Right.
Just stuff him in a locker if you say something to him.
Right. So, just going back and gleefully steamrolling your high school experience could be fun and cathartic for people.
This is something fun to explore.
Yeah.
So we're going to build an adventuring school tonight for you.
Sure.
Probably several.
Okay.
And we've got 5 qualities to create an adventuring school. And these qualities aren't necessarily the end-all, be-all. They never are.
Right. If you have a different premise, then start there.
Yeah. But any of these could be jumping off points to start your story.
Right. They're not in order.
Yes. Unlike when we started our organizations, we start from like a set point and kind of worked our way down the list. These are just jump off points. So the 5 qualities we're talking about today are the purpose of the school, so school purpose, the tone and the flavor, the actual school itself, so
the physical school,
the physical part of the school,
right?
Characters and NPCs,
sure,
and the methodology, school methodology. So you could, if you wanted to start off, say, I've got a great idea for a bunch of adventurers that go to school, and that's the characters and NPCs, right? And you just start off with that, and you could build an adventure from that, build an adventuring school. You might go, you know what? I've got this really cool idea of this weird school, and then you start it from that angle.
If you've got this building on a floating island surrounded by other floating islands that you don't even get to go to the mainland until you graduate.
Yeah, that already tells itself, right? It
Yeah.
tells its own story. So that's kind of where we're coming from in terms of the different qualities that we are approaching.
That would be a dope school for delinquents.
They wouldn't be able to run away after that.
Exactly.
Well, they could. They just have to breathe water. Think about
Oh,
that.
no. When I said floating, I meant in the air.
Oh, not in the ocean?
No.
Oh, that would be kind of cool. Yeah. Long way down.
Featherfall only lasts a minute.
That's a good point. Yeah. So let's start with the first quality that we have for the menu this evening, which is the school purpose.
Okay.
So tell me a little bit about what the school purpose would be.
Well, like any other organization, it exists for a reason.
Yeah.
It could be altruistic. There's nothing wrong with that. Realistically, there's a lot right with that.
Sure. Yeah. It could be you're trying to mold new minds. Maybe you're creating an adventuring school because you want to do some good for the world.
You want to provide opportunities for people who might not otherwise have them.
There's adventurers out there, so clearly there is a business for adventuring.
Sure. Which is our second option, which is cash.
Yeah, cash money. So they're training people because they can get paid. Now, think about consequence of actions if you're doing a school purpose build. If people are getting paid to be adventurers, that means that the world needs adventurers for some reason.
Sure.
And that could be a plague of monsters. It could be ruins. Maybe there's a plethora of wizard towers, or
Multiple fallen civilizations.
maybe a god bled all over the world and they're trying to collect all the god blood, or
Yeah.
some weird ass, fantasy idea.
This would also be, you mentioned earlier, the whole Acquisitions Inc. thing. This would be a great way to go straight from step A to step B. Like they graduate, start their franchise.
They've got their business degree in adventuring and
Yeah.
they go into an AC Inc. Franchise. Yeah, totally.
In the first couple of quarters or first couple of years, they're paying back their student loans. It'd be awful.
Oh, God. Student loans in a fantasy setting. It's definitely a lawful evil world.
For an AC Inc. game,
It's
it
perfect.
makes perfect sense.
Perfect sense, yeah. In addition to cash money, they could have a goal in mind.
Sure.
So they might be backing a cause. You're going back to altruism here.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they're trying to liberate people from some specific oppression. And so they're training adventurers to help that. Harper's is a good example of that.
Sure. They could be going after specific research.
Much like some of the adventuring guilds that are out there. So maybe this could be the branch that takes in new recruits, teaches them at the school, and then sends them off into the wilds. Go search, Zoriet in Eberron? Go find me some stuff in Zoriet.
Well, there are schools that send out archaeology teams, paleontology teams to go and study
Paleoarchaeology teams.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anthropology teams.
paleoanthropology. All of them.
Yeah, all kinds of teams.
All the ologies.
All the ologies. Geologies.
In fact,
Look at that sick rock, yo.
it's gray, but it's got a little brown.
Yeah. So that could definitely be a goal. Research.
Sure.
Old-fashioned world domination also could be a goal. Doesn't have to
Absolutely.
be altruistic.
No. I would argue that if you have schools that are training good guys, you are going to have schools that are training bad guys.
I could see that as well.
Just 100%. That's a thing that's going to occur.
Yeah. It might set up in Thay. You imagine the Thay school? That'd be pretty harsh, right?
What would their mascot be?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think I could say that in public.
I think you and I were on the same wavelength from different directions. It was definitely going to be something about a bald head.
Oh, no, I wasn't
No?
thinking. No,
Okay.
I wasn't thinking that. No. Whatever it is, it's going to be redacted. So you guys use your imagination on that one.
It could be, just moving right along.
Yeah,
It could be patron oriented.
absolutely. Yeah, you might have a wealthy patron or a deity even that is
Sure.
a patron. an otherworldly being, so an actual like patron, to run the school or be in charge of the finances of the school. And that would be a cool story jump point as well. Imagine a genie that said, I'm going to train an adventuring guild.
Sure.
But the guild doesn't exist. And so he has to start somewhere. So he starts with a school to train a bunch of adventurers to send them out for whatever reason the genie has. Maybe he's a hidden patron.
Or, that is the pact, right? I would like to trade you an education for some services rendered.
Yes. Now, I'm going to take it a step further. Think of a pentadrone, a modron, that has started an adventuring school because it has realized that the modron march, they keep getting decimated. And it wants to maybe improve
It wants bodyguards for the march?
Yes.
Nice.
Think about that. That would be awesome. And a pentadrone's smart enough to be able to put something like that together.
And it certainly can organize it.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like a slot's going to put a school together. I mean, it would, but only for 5 minutes. Be the school of hard knocks. Let me throw you in this elemental vortex. Dash, here. Grab this party hat. It'll protect you.
As long as he remains amused.
It's true. They're not completely crazy. They can pursue agendas for a long period of time. So maybe the adventuring guild, nothing else in a fantasy world stirs up as much chaos as a group of adventurers. So
yeah,
maybe he does it for that. Think about that.
Or, adventurers are the perfect people to impregnate because you get the full range of slod out of them, right? You can get green slod because of spellcasters. You can get black slod. You can get red slod.
After they go off, do their adventures, create a whole bunch of chaos, and they quote unquote graduate, and they turn into instructors. Blue slod, red slod, purple slod,
plaid slod.
That's the dead list one of all.
Hamblish the Paisley slod.
Yeah. Now, in addition to that, it could just be a straight-up regular patron.
Yeah.
So it could be a merchant, just maybe needs explorers to raise a new found continent, right?
Yeah.
Go find everything, tear it down, give me all the jewels. Could be a shadowy government that needs to train some assassins. So we'll go back to Eberron, right? The Dark Lanterns in Sharn.
Yeah.
Perfect example of that. Maybe they have a training school for all of the people that join the Dark Lantern, kind of like a boot camp.
Yep.
That'd be kind of cool.
I touch on something like that a little bit later.
Oh,
yeah.
Good. Excellent. Well, then we'll talk about that a little bit later. All right, let's talk about tone and flavor.
Okay.
What are we talking about when we say that?
So tone and flavor are going to be your overall theme of the adventuring school. In a lot of ways, it sets the storyline if you're centering the story in the school, which you should, because why else are you creating an adventuring school?
So you mentioned Dimension 20, and they did kind of the John Hughes type style.
Right. It's like a high stakes John Hughes. That is. And I loved it. It's a lot of fun. Maybe not what a lot of people are thinking of when they think of fantasy adventuring type school. It's more high school and less magical world.
That's fine. It's
whatever,
whatever your game is.
Yeah, like I said, it was a lot of fun. It's a cool take on the idea, but you could have military style boot camp.
And that would be an interesting game starter as well. Maybe you all are recruits for a particular military organization in your game world. So I'm trying to think of something like, what is it? The Purple Dragon Knights in Cormyr?
Yep.
Maybe it's a purple. Think of like a bunch of new recruits as purple dragons.
Yeah. Basically, any kingdom's versions of the Green Berets or the Seals or any group of Marines. Sometimes you just need it exploded by AM. You know?
Sure. You also mentioned, you wrote this down, Kingsman-style training camp for a secret organization. So going back to the Dark Lanterns again.
Exactly.
Yeah, train some spies, right? A little MI6 action.
Exactly. And that could be a lot of fun.
Oh, man, I would love to run a game where everyone starts off as a first-level character and they're all spies.
But here's where it can get really crazy. Imagine a barbarian trained as a spy.
Yeah, I could see that.
That is disgusting.
High charisma, high strength.
The last thing you want is a barbarian that can sneak.
That's a good point, yeah. Think about that, folks.
Because
That'd be
the
kinda
rogue
cool.
popping up behind you is bad, but you can turn around and look at him. The barbarian popping up behind you, it doesn't matter if you turn around and look at him. You're still catching a table-sized axe to the face.
Welcome to Grapple. It's Grapple Town. Here in Grapple Town, we crush the life out of you.
Exactly.
Have you visited Grapple Town? You're about to. Some other options in tone and flavor. You could have an X-Men school for gifted adventurers. I mean, come on. Most of the people are warlocks, sorcerers, druids, people casting fireballs and such. Why not make it all these strange, mysterious powers? Imagine a group of sorcerers, and they all have different bloodlines, and they have to go to a school for sorcery.
I considered at one point running a superhero campaign in quotation marks in D&D using only sorcerers and warlocks.
That'd be kind of fun. I could see something like that. We mentioned having a patron as a tone, so it could be something sponsored by a patron or the local adventurers guild.
Sure. Once again, that makes perfect sense. You're feeding your own organization.
Yeah, yeah. And if you're an adventuring guild, people are going to die off.
Yeah.
It happens. You go into that ruin. Oh, there's a lich there. You're dead. Sorry, Bill died. Bill's dead. We got to have a replacement for Bill. Well, we should probably start a school so that we can keep sending people in and we can still become bartenders.
I have this brilliant idea of an adventuring guild that gives every one of their adventurers a free magic item. It activates on death. It levitates up 5 feet. It takes 10 seconds worth of video in 360 degrees, and then it falls down, and it transmits that video back to the adventuring guild.
Oh, that'd be fun. Like a little death scry, and it just sends it back. The head wizard gets this like little beam into his skull. He like falls to the ground, thrashing around for a little bit. What's going on? What's going on? Team A is dead. Send in Team B.
Turns out there was a lich.
Yeah. I'm going to need a stiff drink after that. All right. We're going to talk a little bit more about adventuring schools, but we'll be right back.
After these messages. This episode brought to you by your friendly neighborhood dice makers. Please take a look at their wares. They're great folks.
This is a commercial break. If you guys would like to hear us review something like a product or service, or if you'd like us to cover something like a topic,
Or if you'd like to sponsor an episode, we'd love to hear from you and have you contact us at info@goblinscorner.com.
so write to us and maybe we'll talk to you. Maybe not. And we're back.
Welcome back.
So we're talking adventuring schools,
Indeed.
and we kind of went into a little bit about the tone and flavor of the school as well as,
Yeah. The why?
the why or the purpose of the school. And we've given a couple of examples of why you might have a nice story jump point or start point to your adventure if you want to build an adventuring school. And now I think it's a good time to consider maybe the actual school itself as a jump-in point. And by the way, before I jump into that, any of these could have completely different flavors and completely different methods behind them.
Sure.
So what I mean by that is your purpose, for example, might be different from your tone. So you can mix and match them. You can use one or all of these, and that'll give it even more variety to how you build your adventuring school.
For example, you could have a cheerful benefactor, right, as a patron, but they take the school very seriously
Mm-hmm.
because This is all coming out of their pocket.
Sure.
And so even though the person and the premise behind the school might be light and airy and good and happy, the school might be kind of an awful place.
Yeah. I'll give you a different example. So maybe the purpose is cash money, to make money,
Mm-hmm.
but the tone and flavor might be mercenary. And then it's run by, say, a mercenary guild to replace their members.
Sure.
So they're kind of recruiting. Or maybe something like, we'll go with like the Kingsman stuff, right? So maybe we have like the tone and flavor is spy intrigue, which would kind of set the tone of your campaign, but we'll use cash money again as the kind of the school purpose. What if you are running a intrigue campaign where you're spies for hire?
Nice.
That'd be cool, right?
That would be very fun.
We should play that and play Shadowrun. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the actual school itself. What are we talking about when we say that?
We're talking about the actual physical premise of the school. Where is it located? What's the environment around the school and the environment of the school? What's it like?
Yeah. It could be the building description. It could be the grounds. So let's talk a little bit about the local geography, for example. So is the school in a desert, in a forest, up in the air, like you mentioned earlier?
In the middle of a large city? Like, is it in downtown Boston?
It could be. It's
Sure.
Straight up in Boston. It could be underneath a large volcano.
Sure. Maybe the patron of the school's a red dragon.
It could totally happen. Have a bunch of kobolds hanging out, right? And some magma elementals. It could be in the Underdark.
Sure.
It could be in a halfling village. So think about the geography, because as we've mentioned in many episodes before, when we talk about when you're building an organization, location is important because that affects what's going on in terms of your campaign in the immediate vicinity.
Right.
If it's in the middle of like a war zone, guess what? You're probably going to churn out a lot of warriors.
If it's in the middle of a war zone, everybody in there is a warrior of some type.
Correct. Yeah. Spell or whatever.
Yeah.
But if it's in the middle of a city, then that has a different connotation than, say, in the middle of the woods.
Probably in the middle of a city, you're probably going to have more enchant, charm, and illusion, and probably less evokers.
Quite possibly, unless you have some walls of force to make sure nothing gets blown up.
Yeah. Because cities tend to look down on large-scale fires.
It's just collateral damage. It's fine. Now, in addition to the geography, what about the local wildlife? And this could be the actual wildlife or the people around.
Also, does that much chaos affect the local wildlife?
Oh, so maybe some alchemical experiments might be mutating the local rats, for example?
Sure. Wild surges?
Oh, yeah. Wild surges could do it.
All sorts of... I personally would definitely have some occasional weirdnesses pop up.
He says in quotation marks, occasional weirdness. Yeah, I love that idea. A good reason to have it out in the middle of the woods, too, would be if you're training adventurers, they got to learn how to fight monsters. So maybe are there monsters that the students can test themselves against?
Yeah.
That would be kind of a cool theme. Where it's like, all right, do you guys have done enough theory? We're going out and we're going to do some practice runs now.
We're going out to the owlbear preserve.
Yes, an owlbear preserve. Yeah, all right, walk over this barbed wire fence. The owlbears hate barbed wire, so they keeps them in there. So go down 40 paces, there'll be an owlbear den right there. I want you to kill it. It's getting old. It needs to go.
It's time to cull the flock.
Yes, it's culling the owlbear flock. Boy, that would be a test of adventures, wouldn't it? A good one for that one. Yeah, I love that. So does this keep people interested in the school because they're honing their skills? Or does it keep people from leaving the school? Think about that.
Little column A, little column B.
Yeah, if you're in the middle of a town, that's a different story, right? You can just walk out. Oh, I'm done with this school. If you're in the middle of the wilderness and there's horrible monsters everywhere because you're testing yourselves on them, you're either going to be an adventurer or you're going to be dead.
Yes. Something to think about is, how big is the facility?
Okay, so we're talking about the school grounds itself.
Right. You could have something as large as, a giant old school castle, but if you've got a group like the Harpers, they're probably only going to be training 3, 4, 5 students at a time. That might be more like a camp.
Yeah, something in the middle of the woods,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe just like a farmhouse that has some facilities to train in archery and music.
An underground warehouse.
Yeah, that would be great too. If it's a university-size style adventuring school, first off, what are they doing to churn out that many adventurers and why?
Or what if it is a secret school set in a full-size university?
Oh, that would be kind of cool. So you join.
You take the special classes.
Yeah, that would be kind of neat. So it's just in a standard university. So you see a whole bunch of, that guy's going to be a barrister. That guy's learning to be a scribe. And then what's that meaty guy with the leather armor? What's he showing up? He must be playing the special sports team. Yeah, that's what he needs the sword for. And the dragon armor.
He's a bailiff. He's learning to be a bailiff.
Learning to be a bailiff. There you go. That's interesting. It would be cool to play a game like that where you're incognito as an adventurer to learn the trade, but you're at a regular school.
And you have to try not only to succeed in your classes, but you also have to try and stay incognito.
That would be tough for every player we know.
Yes.
That'd be tough.
That would be awful for me. That would be an exercise in hell.
Yeah. So think about how big the school is. How many levels does it have? Does it have a dungeon? Does it have an aviary? Does it have the one classroom in the clouds or underwater or something like that?
Sure. You got to practice those things.
Yeah. What kind of rooms does it have? What are some examples of some rooms, Matt, that you could have in an adventuring school?
A dungeon, obviously.
Of course.
An alchemist lab.
Oh, train some alchemy. Yeah, that'd be kind of cool. Or summoning.
Sure. A magic workshop, right? Maybe for scribing scrolls. Very important.
If you're becoming an artificer, maybe some place to work and hone your skills.
A danger room, right? A place for combat.
Yeah. Full of constructs, maybe, that attack, or summoned creatures, or hell, some monsters you brought in from the Underdark.
Or all of those things are believed to be true, but all you have is one really good illusionist.
Well, I'd be a hell of an illusionist right there. That would be awesome. Or you might just say, I need you to fail this save.
The room itself is cursed.
Everybody that walks in the room fails their save?
Yep.
That's a good idea. That's kind of cool. I could see that. Yeah, and then rooms for other skills as well. So rooms for like sneaking or thievery, rooms for maybe for the cleric craft or medicine.
Well, that's just the infirmary.
True, yeah.
The room for sneaking is literally filled with like dry leaves, bells, caltrops, random pieces of taut rice paper, right? Just
grease spells all over the floor in random places,
and on the walls and ceiling and
trip
random
wires.
places.
It's gonna. There's gonna be like a jewel in the center of it.
There's pigeon strips across the rafters, so if you're not paying attention, you stab your fingers and
a beholder in the corner, just staring, just watching everything. And when you're done,
spectator. He was like, "Hey, congratulations, you made it 15 feet before I noticed you." There's literally like 5-foot squares to see how far you made it before they caught you.
Oh my God, I can visualize this in my head. That's so great. I love that. All right, so it could be any room, right?
Yeah,
any room. We're saying you should be that room. Where did the students live? Now, this is something that I've noticed a lot in a lot of fantasy. You know, what's going on if you have like a magical school, for example, they never talk about the dorms very much.
Yeah.
Or the cafeteria. Where do they eat? Where do they go to relax, just hang out? And more importantly, where are the bathrooms? Because you never hear about that either.
Prestidigitation.
I don't believe that. There still has to be a room where they have to prestidigitate.
No, there's tiny little unseen servants that haunt the whole place to clean up everything.
That would be kind of interesting. So what, they just poop wherever they want?
Yeah.
All right, I'm down with that.
Just hop in a corner somewhere.
Very freeing to just poop wherever you want.
Well, that's why everybody always wears robes.
That sounds awful. All right. And finally, we're talking about the school itself. Think about the influence the school has on other people. So what's its reputation?
Sure.
Is it a school known for killing people? Is it a school maybe that people hold in high regard? Oh, you graduated from Fighting Flump University. Oh, you're one of the Fighting Flumps? Oh, they churn out really good wizards.
Now, on that theory, right, if you're doing it more like a university, oh, you went to the Fighting Flumps Barbarian College?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
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 Yeah.
They're known for putting out really good wizards.
Yeah. Something to think about, right? And going on that, what do people think about the students or the instructors or the graduates themselves?
Yeah. Also, as far as the school's reputation, what is their reputation in their specific environs, right? Is the school something that the local community loves having because it brings people into town, it brings business into town? Or is it something that the local town puts up with because it brings nuisances, right? Like, do they just put up with it? They're like, the school's here. It's been here. There's nothing we can do about it.
Damn wizards always
Fine.
blowing up.
Exactly.
Yeah, it could happen, right? It's been here 150 years. We've been trying to get rid of it, but they just keep rebuilding the whole damn city when it gets attacked by some kind of monster. So we just let them do whatever they want. I don't know why I went redneck with that, but it just sounds good.
Or what if the local town is taking advantage of the school? Hear me out.
All right, I'm
Hear me
listening. I'm waiting.
Because I'm a terrible person.
Of course you are.
I am tired of my kitchen. Looks like crap. I need a new stove. My pots and pans are garbage. I roll into my kitchen with a sledgehammer, just destroy the crap out of it. And I march myself up to the school and I say, somehow somebody got an earth elemental in my kitchen. It destroyed everything. I need you to fix it now.
Tarnation, this earth elemental just came and just wrecked everything.
Now, the school can either argue about it,
Or they can just send a wizard to fix
or they
it.
can send a wizard to fix it.
Sure. No, I like that idea. That's good.
So imagine an entire town
Abusing the wizard,
abusing the school.
the local adventuring school. That'd be kind of cool.
And the school, even if the school knows about it, but they don't care because it's still easier to fix than to argue.
Of course, then you have that one cleric that is an asshole. He's a student cleric is like, zone of truth. It caught me.
And then both the town and the school argue with him about it.
Yep. Look what you've done.
They're like, no, it's just
It's
easier.
all
to,
it's
just
all under the
easier.
table. It's
Yeah,
all under the table. All right. So moving on, we have characters and NPCs.
Sure.
And
No.
what we're talking about that is who is involved in the school itself. Now, obviously, the people that are playing the game,
Clearly.
but let's talk a little bit about who's running the show, right? Who, for that matter, again, cleans up the mess, right? If it's not, summoned creatures because you're pooping everywhere because you have robes on. So when we talk about who's running it, first thing comes to mind is like a dean or like a guild master of some sort or patron.
Sure. Superintendent, whatever.
Yeah. So, but it could be anything. So who would that head honcho be that runs the school? Like, let's give a couple examples.
Okay. Now, for just a college or high school type school, obviously it's going to be the principal or the dean.
Yeah. If it's adventuring schools for a specific purpose, like say run by an adventuring guild, it could be the ex-adventurer, now a barkeeper.
Retired adventurers.
Yeah.
That's going to be your teachers because somebody has to know what you're going to deal with to teach you it. For something along the lines of the Harpers or the Dark Lantern, it's going to be a spy master of some kind.
Or a harper.
Or in Harper.
Yeah. If it's something like a school that churns out a lot of wizards or magical research, could be a powerful wizard.
Right.
In fact, there's probably a couple of powerful wizards that are teaching the classes.
Sure. If it's military, the person in charge is going to be obviously captain, lieutenant, general, whatever.
In some kind of standing army.
Right.
So you'd have scoutmasters and drill masters and stuff like that. In addition to like what their positions are, what are their mentality towards the students? Are they nice? Are they mean? Do they give you good grades? Do they make you do after school magical research?
And that, theoretically, right, that's going to go back to your theme to a point. But I had, if you take high school as an example, I had great teachers. I had garbage teachers. I had people who were nice and people who were mean. I have friends who have been in the military that actually liked their drill sergeant.
Sure.
So that doesn't, while it might do something to inform your decision, it should not inform your decision to the point that it becomes a cliche.
Yes. So we've got a couple of ideas in terms of examples. So most adventuring schools could have the following, right? First off, some kind of guard.
Right.
Maybe a watch or somebody that kind of keeps track of the city grounds. Because if it's a school for adventurers, there's going to be magic, there's going to be lore, there's going to be stuff that people want to steal.
Sure.
You got to have security guards of some sort, right?
If nothing else, there's going to be a wizard component, which means there are going to be spell books, which are worth a lot of money.
Yes. Magical containment workers is another good example of that too. Who's going to clean up that mess? What happens after you've slaughtered that beastie? Where's it go? Well, obviously it goes to the wizard who needs the
Uses it
eyeballs
for parts.
Yeah.
Yep.
If you don't know what we're talking about, look up creature harvesting.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of monsters, if you're in a school that uses actual live demonstrations, somebody has to care and feed for the beasties before they come up for demonstration.
Got to have a Hagrid.
Yeah.
Yeah, who's the Hagrid? Scribes, clerics, and research staff are often in a adventuring school of some sort because, first off, scribes, you've got to have somebody to, put together the lessons and teaching stuff, writing the books down, and it's not like you could just print something out unless you're in a world that does that.
Right. But also, scribes are useful for just making copies of things. Because if you're in an institution of higher learning, some of your students may come up with important research that you want to disseminate to other places.
Absolutely. We can also talk about priests or healers or medical personnel of some sort.
The infirmary.
Yeah. You're going to get injured.
100% you have to have an infirmary.
Yes. Regenerate, raise dead, perhaps. Who knows? Could be all kinds of stuff, right? If it's a money-making and it's not just run by like a very wealthy benefactor, you might have to have some people who are just standard workers in the adventuring school. So, for example, stuff like salespeople.
Recruiters, yeah.
Yeah. Got to get people in there, right? Maybe you have to collect tuition, tax collectors, thugs, when you don't get the taxes and tuition.
Lawyers.
Can you imagine a crack team of adventurers that work for an adventuring school that
just debt collectors
that hunt down student loans from previous adventure students?
Sure.
That would be a great story. Think about that, folks.
That would be awful.
That would be awful and
awesome, but
yeah.
awful.
Yeah, yeah. And finally, you could have janitors, as we've mentioned before, and people in wet work. What do we mean for that? Kill the monsters, of course.
I like the idea of janitors just 100% in general being the people who clean up.
Yeah. They clean up messes. They clean up problems.
Yes.
So when I think of like janitors, not janitors, but cleaners.
Yes.
Is what I'm thinking of. Like Pulp Fiction, the cleaner guy.
Yep.
Yeah. You've got a student that's creating a problem? Talk to the janitor. Like, think about that. That'd be really cool.
But nobody knows. I mean, obviously the higher ups know, but like none of the students are aware that the janitors are cleaners,
they
not
just see this guy
janitors.
mopping the floor, but they don't realize he's an assassin. That'd be kind of cool, too. It'd be fun to play. Finally, we come along to the school methodology, and this is another story arc that you can put in to start your adventuring school.
Yeah.
When we talk about methodology, what are we talking about, Matt?
How hands-on are the lessons? How intense are they? Because like a boot camp, obviously going to be more intense than a high school.
Yeah. So what we're talking about is how are the lessons taught? Is there a specific style behind those lessons?
Right. What are the guiding principles and beliefs, if any?
Yeah. We've got a couple of examples of these. First thing I can come up with is maybe talk about the classrooms. What kind of, maybe is it a large classroom size? Is it small? How big is the student body? And this goes a little bit to the school itself, but how many students are there?
Right. So take Waterdeep, for example. Waterdeep has 1 million people in it. If you say
1% is an adventurer.
Yeah, that's 10,000 people, right? That's a lot of adventurers, which means the class sizes are going to be significantly larger than, say, Shadowdale, which is going to be 3 people.
Yeah. They're just hanging out at Elminster's old fort.
Exactly.
Sitting in the back, in the backyard, just chilling. Some other things you could consider is the actual subjects that are being taught. So you can have an adventurer school that is devoted to either specific subjects.
Yeah.
Maybe, like we said, we're talking about one that churns out a lot of wizards. But if you're going generic, and we suggest generic because that's more fun.
Right.
Then you can have everybody in the group play.
Team building.
Yeah. Dungeoneering 101. There's literally a class for dungeoneering.
Yeah.
Monster anatomy could be a class. For that matter, monster cooking.
Yes.
A culinary class for monster parts. You should totally do that.
Dungeon Ec.
Dungeon home ec. Yes, that would be great. I've made this wonderful. I've shaved the Tarisk and I've made a delightful quilt out of his
back hair.
His back hair. Yeah, the Tarisk has some terrible back hair. Shaved it.
Beholder eye souffle.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. Little poached eyeballs.
Mm-hmm.
We could talk about practices. So is this real world instruction that's taught in the classrooms? Is this something that's in theory?
Or is it a combination of the two?
Yeah. And I would say a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
Absolutely.
Depending upon how your play style is.
And if it's a very benevolent place, once again, you can always go with illusory foes from the get-go.
Danger room versus something else.
Right. And the super fun portion of that is your players don't have to be aware that it's illusory.
Oh, that's a great idea.
They don't need to know that they're not in any danger. In fact, they shouldn't know that.
Maybe when they're right about to graduate, you kind of just let that slip.
The graduation is actually held in the danger room.
Yes, that would be awesome. They roll into the room. Maybe the rooms keep changing every time they go in. They don't realize that the rooms don't change. It's just that the room's just repurposed every time.
Sure.
That'd be hilarious. Speaking of like teaching practices and stuff, let's talk about teaching itself.
Yeah. How do the individual instructors teach?
Now, this involves a little bit more legwork from a storyteller's aspect because you got to come up with all of these different teachers. But how fun would that be?
You do and you don't. Once again, right? You can do cooperative world building there. If you want, if your wizard hates like going back to the original concept, right? If your wizard hates the religion's instructor, oh, you do? Congratulations. Then you get to write them up.
Yeah. So you could have the actual people.
Yeah. What's his name? What's he like? I'm going to play him, but give me the basic premise. Give me the rundown.
And if you don't want to do specific individual instructors, you could also kind of go at it from the angle of what's the teaching style overall like in general. So is it like a brutal style of teaching? Does it weed people out? Is it a learning environment? Like how is it conductive to the student body?
And
for good or for ill?
Yeah. And if you want it to be a very lawful school, all of the instruction is done by golems.
That'd be interesting. I could see that.
They're not going to have favorites.
That's a good point. Yeah.
You either obey the rules of the classroom or you don't.
Does not concern the stone man either way.
Yep.
That's kind of cool. Yeah, that'd be fun. How does one become a teacher for that matter? And talk about personnel here. What are the requirements? What happens if they're bad teachers? How does one reward being a good teacher? So the way I look at it is this. Consider the NPCs that are instructing the adventuring school as like it's a job, right? Like any other job that you would have. Again, be perfect for an Acquisitions Inc. game.
Sure.
So this fits lockstep with this stuff. So think of all the usual things you would think of having a job as a teacher. Same thing would apply. and the people that are listening to the show who might happen to be teachers, you guys all know the hardships and the suffering that you go through to do your daily job. Think about it for a fantasy game too.
Sure.
Add that stuff in, make it realistic a bit.
What if you're doing a secret organization type thing, right? What if you build moral quandaries into the school
to test the loyalty of the instructors and the students?
So you have a super nice teacher that everybody loves, but that a couple of students have caught drinking in class, right? The coffee cup is full of whiskey, whatever. He's not. It's designed to look and smell like whiskey. But will the students rat him out or not?
Oh, I see.
Should they rat him out or not?
That's a good point.
Right. Things like that, but actually built into the education.
That'd be kind of neat to come up with. In addition to the student body and the faculty, think about the overall process of getting into the adventuring school. How hard is it to get in?
Do they actively go out and recruit?
Or do they selectively choose individuals? We're talking about the secret spy organization and stuff.
Yeah.
That's one of those things where it's like, we've got a job for you in a place where you can learn. Whereas if it's just a standard adventuring college, maybe you can just apply.
You
pay the tuition, don't die.
You wake up in the middle of the night with a stone on your forehead. What is this? And you take it off. And when you point it in a certain direction, a tiny little light appears on the end of it. But only in that direction. You have to follow the stone.
Yeah.
To get to where you're going.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool. After school activities. If it's an adventuring school,
sure.
Maybe they got some stuff going on. Do they have a club? Sports club? Maybe they've got some kind of crazy fantastical sports.
Sure.
And if you guys want to know a little bit more about that,
we did episode 102, fantasy games.
Yeah, games and fantasy games.
What does the theater club look like in a fantasy setting?
A lot of bards and wizards and
illusionists.
Yeah, that'd be great. What do the students do in their downtime? And again, this comes to location too. If they're in a city, that's easy. If they're in the wilderness, who knows? If they're underground, they're hugging flumps.
Are there upperclassmen druids that are, growing weed around the corner or making goodberry wine and stuff?
Of course there are.
You know what I'm saying? If you've got people of a young, adventurous age and mindset and no entertainment nearby, people are going to find ways to make entertainment.
Does goodberry wine get you hungover afterwards, or does it,
No.
since it heals, you just get drunk and you wake up great?
Yes.
That's something we should look into later. Finally, let's talk about graduation. What happens when they've left the adventuring school? Do they go on to work for the guild, the country, or whoever?
Depending on the school setup, if you successfully graduate Dark Lantern School,
you're a Dark Lantern.
You're a Dark Lantern.
If you successfully just graduated typical adventuring school, you're an adventurer, but what does that mean?
Right. And what kind of adventurer are you? Or once again, as you said before, maybe you're just a researcher.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily a fun PC unless what you're researching is something that has to be hands-on.
But it brings back consequence of action once again. So, for example, does the school continue to communicate with the graduated students after they've graduated? They have alumni, representative or something like that?
But the other question is if you play a campaign of an adventuring school, graduation should be an experience.
Yes.
You need to do your sights, sounds, smells, feels. What does the graduation dinner taste like? What's it look like? Right? Go in on that, because this has been a campaign.
You're eating an owlbear that you killed because you culled it before graduation. Stuffed owlbear.
Beholder eye souffle. We already talked about it.
Yeah, beholder eye souffle. Yeah. Home ec guys cook that up. Not only that, think about after graduation. Do they help you get jobs?
Sure.
Is there reunions? Think of a college reunion from an adventuring school.
Yeah.
That would be, you want to start a campaign off. Screw everything we've talked about tonight and just start it off as all of you graduated the same adventuring school and you're having your 5-year reunion. Bam. Instant adventure. What kind of shenanigans could you get into at your old adventuring college?
You get there, and the party is the only people alive from the graduating class.
That might be the case.
Somebody is hunting adventurers.
Oh, that would be
And
great.
That would be a dope campaign.
Yeah, there you go. See? We just come up with a good adventure idea. So there you have it. A couple of ideas to get the juices flowing to start an adventuring school. Hopefully, this will provide your players with a lot of entertainment for years to come.
And you, for that matter.
That's right. Any questions or comments? Write to us. info@goblinscorner.com, or you can reach me, Eric@goblinscorner.com, or
Me, Matt at goblinscorner.com.
we're on all the things. Matt, what are all those things we're on?
We're on Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, YouTube, Twitch, and TikTok.
As Goblin's Corner,
And Instagram.
as the Goblin's Corner. Do you like our program? We hope so. Subscribe to the podcast on your favorite player, YouTube and Twitch.
Click the 5 stars. Give us a review on iTunes, Podchaser, and YouTube. And for YouTube, of course, do all of the YouTube-y things. Give us a like, subscribe, comment for us. It boosts the show, and it feeds the starving algorithm.
And that starving, hungry algorithm is the Adventuring Guild student loans creeping up. They get you. They're haunting me. I've got student loans. They haunt me every day.
I understand.
That's all the time we have for tonight. Once again, my name's Eric.
And I'm Matt.
We'll see you next time.
Good night, folks.
The Goblin's Corner is written and produced by Eric Holden.
And Matt Staples.
Show song by the mighty D20.
This is a Subterranean production.
Basie.